Again, this is Unit 1 still, Section 4, and this will cover slides 24 to 29. And just a quick recap, hopefully this will be a short lecture, but just a quick recap. We've been going through the 5 main themes of geography. We talked about location first with absolute, a precise spot, and relative, its location compared to somewhere else. We also talked a bunch about place yesterday, and that includes placelessness, the site and situations of places, and we're ready to move on to another topic or two, but we still have another part of place to go. So slide 24 is also going to deal with place, and it deals with place names, toponyms, Toponyms, toponyms. Usually toponyms are place names that give you some clue about a particular area or a particular place. For example, Miami Beach, the city of Miami Beach, the city of Cocoa Beach, and the city of Daytona Beach. The names of those cities give you some type of clue as to its surroundings. And I'm sure that all of you guys can guess, all 3 of those are on the east coast of Florida, and they are on a beach. Some of the prettiest places in the world. Salt Lake City, for example. What does Salt Lake City tell you about Salt Lake City? Well, it tells you that it is by a large lake that is very, very salty, right? As a toponym. Our place in Colorado is called Pikes Peak. Years and years ago, there was an explorer named Zebulon Pike that discovered that area. The name went to him, and now it's called Pikes Peak. And so you know a little bit about it just because of the name of it. You know that it has a peak. Moving on to slide 25. Slide 25 will also let you know, excuse me, that sometimes toponyms are misleading. And I've noticed that many, many times, but I'll just give you a couple examples. The toponym for the name of Greenland and the name of Iceland are very confusing. Greenland is actually very icy, and Iceland is actually most of the year very green. So that's a toponym that could throw you off. There's a little town in Iowa called Lake City, Iowa. You could guess there's a lake around there. You'd be wrong. There's no body of water anywhere around there, especially that would be called a lake. I went to college at Central Michigan University in a city that was called Mount Pleasant. Mount Pleasant. It's not elevated. It's just a flat area. Another one, Mount Prospect, Illinois. It's like 500 feet over sea level, which is about as flat as you can get. So toponyms are interesting. I like them. I like seeing names of places. There's a city in New Mexico that's called Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. And years ago, back I think in the 1950s and 60s, there was a game show called Truth or Consequences. And I don't know how it came about, but somehow that city ended up making their name off of the name of the game show. I've never heard of another city in America called Truth or Consequences other than that area of New Mexico, and that's just its toponym. So Roman numeral, go to slide 26. I don't have anything to talk about that. It's just a cool picture of different toponyms, and toponyms are neat, probably easy to remember throughout the year. Maybe we'll have a question on it on the AP exam and get lucky with that. Let's go to slide 27, and we're going to start looking at a couple of different terms under place. And one of them is distance. Distance is basically the proximity of how far or near something is. Distance can be measured in a straight line. It can be measured in something that is curving. But distance is just how close or how far something is. Let me give you one more example on this, and then we'll move on to the next slide. There's a city at the southern western part of Michigan called Kalamazoo. And Kalamazoo, Michigan if you want to get to the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, there's a couple ways to do it. And the distance between the two differs based on which way you go. If you want to fly from Kalamazoo, Michigan to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, it is only about 150 miles away. You're going to fly right over Lake Michigan and land in Milwaukee. If you decide to drive from Kalamazoo to Milwaukee, you're almost going to double your miles. It's about 230 miles, because instead of, you can't drive your car straight because you'll go through the lake, so you have to go all the way down the southern part of Lake Michigan, going through Chicago before you can start heading back up. So the distance by air and the distance by car from the same two places can differ. So I just want you to have an idea that distance is how near or far something is. And you know, if you and I were 10 miles away from each other, all things being equal, that's not very far. But what if in between us was the largest mountain range, the highest mountain range there was, and it was 1,000 miles long? 10 miles would still only be 10 miles. But it wouldn't actually be the same anymore. It's the proximity of how near it is. It's more than just the physical space of it. Let's go to slide 28, and we're going to go to something that has been happening at a more and more rapid pace, and that is the time-space compression. All right, the amount of time and how far away or how near something is changes over the course of time. Now, the time-space compression varies because of different technologies. Because the time-space compression is shrinking the distance in the Earth. For example, 100 years ago, I want to get in touch with somebody in Hardyville. It's going to be a pain. Now I want to get in hold of somebody in Hardyville. It's a matter of a couple buttons on my phone or a couple buttons for an email. In fact, I don't even need to be in Ridgeland to do that, to get them from 10 minutes away. I could be in China and still call them with a couple buttons. The time-space compression basically means that there's a shrinking distance between anywhere on the Earth and anywhere else, and it's because of all these technological and communicative advances. Right? A negative, though, about the time-space compression is it is wiping out diversity. Places that like to stand on their own and be their own thing and like, this is what we are. Those ideas are being adopted by everyone else that knows them, or everyone else that knows them is influencing them to get rid of that. And so we lose diversity as the time-space compression marches forward. We're losing more and more diversity. Last slide for today is number 29, and this is a term called friction of distance. Basically, friction of distance simply means the farther apart things are, the more likely they won't be connected or related. So, for example, if I want to build we'll just say a pet store, and I build it in, let's say, Honolulu, Hawaii. There's a big amount of difference between where you are in Ridgeland, Jasper County, and where my pet store is at Honolulu, Hawaii. Because of the gap, the distance there, the friction is so great that it's very unlikely that any of you will be coming to my store to buy any of those pets. Okay? Now, why is that? Part of it is because you could probably, you may not even be in a market for pets. But if you are in a market for pets, surely there's going to be a store a lot closer than mine in Hawaii. That's friction of distance. However, where my store is, maybe there's a lot of people there looking for pets, and that's why I built it there, because I'm more worried about that base than the base of people in South Carolina. But that's called friction of distance. The farther two things are apart from each other, the less likely there'll be any connections with them. The whole idea of space-time compression is changing that, and that's where our lecture will start tomorrow. So I hope you enjoyed your almost 10-minute lecture, and this is APHUG Unit 1, Part 4, slides 24 through 29. Any questions you have for me, write them down. We will answer them tomorrow. Have a good one.